For many of us, touring New York is nothing to worry about. The sun is shining on your face, and the radio is playing nice music to pay your respects during this city road trip. However, a simple drive through the city can suddenly turn into a worrisome experience when the police turn out to be chasing you. That's exactly what happened to this man. What exactly was going on that made this police officer decide to chase him? Before we start, can we get this video to 1,000 likes? Please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. When a police officer pulled William over, he had just left for a tour of the city. The young man was, of course, stunned that he had to stop, as he had no idea what he had done wrong. Let's see what was actually going on and why he was asked to stop. When William looked in his rearview mirror, he saw flashing blue lights. He was well aware of what the police car was aiming for. As his heart pounded in his throat, a million questions raced through his mind. He tried to figure out why the police asked him to pull over his car. When he stopped his car, he tried to calm himself, but it wasn't easy. William followed the officer's instructions without hesitation. As the officer approached, William rolled down his window and greeted the officer. He wondered if he'd been speeding, but perhaps hadn't realized it. "Did I drive too fast?" he asked the officer. William went out of his way to respectfully address the police officer. The officer approached William cautiously. He stared at the young man for a few seconds, then peered at William's car dashboard. This was clearly not a normal encounter. The officer greeted William by saying, "Good morning." "No, don't drive too fast." So what was going on, and why did the cop put William aside? In reality, the officer had asked the young man to pull over his car for no apparent reason. This made William, logically, even more confused. The two men were in very awkward silence. The officer said, "I just wanted to hold you for a while, to thank you for your service." William was certainly surprised by what the officer just said. What exactly did the officer mean by this, and how did he know William had once served in the military? The young man was amazed that a random police officer, whom he had never seen before, knew this information about him. Then William suddenly understood how the agent knew this information. The young man had forgotten for a moment that he had a specific bumper sticker on his pickup truck. Anyone who saw the sticker would know that William used to be in the military. Military veterans often have bumper stickers on their vehicles. Other drivers had waved or honked their horns in the past in response to the sticker and to thank him. However, he had never been apprehended by an officer. "Who the bumper sticker?" "No problem, sir," William replied. The agent replied, "You're welcome." However, this was not the end of their conversation. On the contrary, this was only the beginning. William expected the conversation to end there, but the police officer already refused to let him leave. The young man had no idea what was happening and what was to come between the meeting of these two strangers. William couldn't suddenly drive away and waited for the agent's approval. However, the officer had a few more questions for the young veteran. For example, he wanted to know where William was stationed. "Where have you served?" the agent asked. William initially had some reservations about these questions, as it was not the agent's job to ask him about his military service. Finally, William answered the agent's question. He said he had worked as a truck driver and had recently returned from a country in the Middle East. "I've been to Iraq," William said. "I worked out of Fort Benning for 15 months. William wanted to leave a normal life, and he hadn't counted on being held back because of his military service. He couldn't have known that the officer had some other reason to question him. The agent seemed only interested in William's service in the military. The young man was stunned that the officer had pulled him over for this. The agent himself, on the other hand, had a specific rationale for doing so. The officer then told William that he had a son who had also just served there. "My son went to Iraq, and that is why he arrested the young man." The agent just wanted to know more about the experiences of someone in the service. He then told William more about his son's time in Iraq. William began to see things differently and was no longer baffled or alarmed. He understood the agent now. Then the conversation between the two took an unexpected turn. What the officer said next surprised William. "You didn't make it home," the officer told William. While serving in Iraq, the agent's son had died. The policeman was clearly having a hard time telling this. William hated to hear this, and he couldn't help but listen to the police officer. William couldn't do more, but he did feel a lot of pity for the officer. After he got home, William was able to enjoy his life. This agent had lost his child in Iraq. You can imagine the emotions going through William at that moment. The young veteran wanted to express his condolences to the broken father. "Man, I'm so sorry to hear that," William told the police officer. The policeman pulled himself together and was about to let William go. Then he noticed something on the young man's dashboard. It was something strange that the officer noticed, namely an American flag, which was intentionally folded. But what was going on with this flag that piqued the agent's curiosity? An American flag is smoothed out at a military funeral in the United States. After that, the flag is folded exactly 13 times into a triangle. This symbolizes the lives lost soldiers on active duty. Each folding method of the flag has a different meaning. "I see you have a flag in your car," said the officer. The flag was folded like this to honor the deceased troops who had fought for the country. But something about it caught the policeman's flag. What was it exactly? When the policeman saw the folded flag, he thought of the flag he had at home. He had received this from the army in memory of his son. There was no doubt that the policeman's heart broke at the sight of the flag. The agent said, "We have the same in the house." Then he asked William for a favor. "May I ask you something?" The police officer hesitantly asked William to get out of his car, to hug the officer. "Do you mind getting out and receiving a hug?" asked the sad police officer. What a surprising turn of events, don't you think? William was initially surprised at this particular request. This was by no means an ordinary situation. The officer then burst into tears and said something to William that also left a deep impression on the young veteran. The officer explained to the young man that he had arrested him because William and his son had a lot in common. Of course, that also explains why the officer asked William for a hug. "You remind me of my son," said the police officer. "I thought you were him," the police officer said afterwards. "I still can't believe he's gone." William couldn't help but give the police officer a big hug, and William couldn't hold back his tears either. With tears in both our eyes, I got out and hugged the officer. This is certainly an event in William's life that he will never forget.